Are you not getting the most out of your color grade? And are you intimidated to use anything beyond the basic color sliders in Adobe Premiere Pro? I used to be like that too, and then my boss taught me how to read the Lumetri Scopes and in conjunction use the color wheels to get the most out of the image, to get real rich cinematic colors. And I'm going to show you how to in Adobe Premiere Pro. So let's jump on in. First off, I'll show you how I used to grade, and then I'll show you in detail how I grade now, and I'll do a side-by-side comparison of the two different styles. This is footage I shot for a music festival a few years ago on my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K, my baba. It's all in Blackmagic's flat color profile, log profile, I guess you call it. First of all, I'll do the way that I used to grade, and I just used to use the basic correction sliders, and it was completely to taste. So first off, I'd turn up the saturation to about 150. Then the whites, I'd push them to about around 80 or 90. Then the blacks, reduce them to about -10. And then the contrast would be about +10-ish. And then I'd be really aggressive with the curve. This is where I do most of my correction. Just push it really far, even further. I'd also use the color picker for the white balance. Oh, and then have an argument with it. So that looks like it's gone too green. So if something like that is what I'd traditionally would have done. That image clearly is a very passable image. And that's the way that I delivered videos to clients for years. Eventually my boss taught me more advanced techniques of color grading, which I'm going to show you now. I'm just going to duplicate that track so we have the original. This is the new way, so we're going to delete that. So open up your Lumetri Scopes. And this is the way I have it laid out, the RGB Parade. It might look a bit intimidating at first, but basically this is your exposure from left to right. So this is how the red is exposed from the left to the right of the image, the same with the green, and then the same with the blue. First of all, boost the saturation to 150 like before, and then we're going to go down to color wheel and match. So here you want your highlights to be about 90, your shadows to be about 10, and your midtones to fall between 40 and 60. So we're going to start by boosting the highlights, and that doesn't go as far as we need it to, so go into exposure. Beautiful. And then back here to your shadows and pull them down. So not a million miles away. So I'm going to show you how to balance the image first. So now you can see you've got a peak in the blues. So what we can do is pull away from where you are. So in this instance, pull towards the red and the yellow. So now we've got a bit more of a level image. So now I find this kind of counterintuitive, but it actually makes sense. So whichever color is dipping, drag it towards that to boost it, and it'll drag the rest of the waveform down. So here you see the blue is dipping, so that actually means the blue is lacking in the image. So like that. These all work in tandem, and when you edit one, it has an effect on all the other colors. You can see as they manipulate it around. So then go into your curves again, pull the curves down a bit. It's a lot more of a gentle S on the curves this way. Pull the highlights down a little. So that's the log profile. This is the grade we've done. And then if we want to actually compare it to how I previously would have graded, a bit darker, a bit more contrasty. You can even see even the waveform, there's more information. So you can see it's a bit less contrasty, but the colors are still richer. And you've got more information. Whereas before I was just going blind, and occasionally you'd have a situation where you needed to remove magenta but also still remove the green, so you're kind of stuck in a bit of a countdown conundrum. And this way it just gives you better knowledge so you can change what you need to. So the feedback my boss gave me was that the colors weren't as rich or as cinematic as they could be. So then I pushed the sliders in the basic correction window, and you start to lose information and the image starts to deteriorate. Using the wheels in conjunction with the Lumetri Scopes, you're not deteriorating the image, you're just getting as much out of it as you can. Now I'm going to do it on another clip. Like I said, I'll do the traditional way I used it. First of all, and like I said, it was just off the eye. First of all, boost the saturation to 150. Then I go down to the whites, push them up to about there. Then bring the blacks down to -10. And then up the contrast. And then, like I said, I'd be really aggressive with the S curve. There we go, white anywhere. So I'm pretty happy with the white balance, but let's see what it gives us. The color temperature is correct. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that image. So then again, and then duplicate this layer. And we're gonna start again. So you get rid of the old color. So then saturation up to 150. Get our Lumetri Scopes up here on the left. And boost the highlights. You can see what that does. Starts to move up here. And then turn the exposure up till we get to about 90. Then the shadows all the way down. Actually gonna expose it a bit more. So it's a tiny bit leaning towards the warmer tones. So we can pull away from that. And then we're gonna pull down the curve. Nice and gentle. So then this is our highlights here. So I want to pull them down to about 60. Let's say it's a bit too blue. So the midtones we want to pull down to 60. So the midtones are gonna pull them a bit in that direction. So then you can see we're leaning a bit too much into the warm tones. So like I find it counterintuitive because it looks like there's more blue in the shadows, but when we pull it in, it'll boost the blue. So we're actually adding blue into the shadows to cool it down a little bit. So as you can see, each action has an effect on the other colors in the waveform. Wherever there's too much of a color, pull in the opposite direction of that color to balance the image. And like I said, it's all about just knowing how you can manipulate the image to do what you want it to, rather than having to use these sliders or the picker. It just takes your color grading to the next level, especially if you're trying to achieve a certain look. So I'm pretty happy with that image. And ultimately it is the eye test, so get this to balanced and then you can be creative with it. And if you've got like really harsh lighting, you might need to change it completely, but at least you'll know how to do so. So then we'll just crop this to have a look. Yeah, you can really see it there, can't you? See, it's just richer. So the right hand side of the image is the new grade and the left is the old. Just makes the colors pop. It's very subtle. It's a bit extra work, but you will get faster as you go. At the start it was quite intimidating, but then when I started editing the old way, at first it was a slow process, but the more you do, the better you get. So looking at the images side by side, there's not a massive amount of difference, but it's these minor differences that really make the difference between being a pro videographer and just a hobbyist videographer. And it's also having the knowledge of how to manipulate the colors in an image, because sometimes you'll shoot something and when you get into the edit, something won't be right and you can't immediately isolate what it is. But now you can refer to the Lumetri scope if you don't know exactly, and the scope will give you the information. So if you like this tutorial, please give us a subscribe. I'm at 791 subscribers. I need to get to the magic number 1000 by Christmas, and then I'll be able to get monetized on YouTube. So if you could hit that subscribe button, it would really mean the world to me. And as always, thanks for coming.